I'm Phil Ash from GRIN2B Foundation, and thank you for joining our GRIN2B Hive Webinar Week. This webinar is the second in our Research Corner series, and we are pleased to welcome Dr. Tim Benke from the University of Colorado. Dr. Benke is here to provide updates on his ongoing efforts to establish the GRIN Variant Patient Registry. Dr. Benke is working in partnership with Dr. Johannes Lemke from the University of Leipzig in Germany to collect comprehensive data on all GRIN variants from patients all over the United States and Europe. The data from the registry is needed in order to inform the broader community, especially industry and the Food and Drug Administration, to design and implement successful clinical trials in the years to come. For every family craving future treatments for GRIN disorders, Dr. Benke's patient registry is quite literally the first step. In this webinar, Dr. Benke will share some preliminary data from the collected variants, share future goals, and explain how each of you can get your child's variants added to this very important registry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Benke. I'm a pediatric neurologist at the University of Colorado and Children's Hospital, Colorado. And I'm going to talk to you today about the GRIN Registry, which has been generously funded by GRIN2B Foundation. And I want to acknowledge the people that I've been working with, Kristen Park, another pediatric neurologist here, Jennifer Sargent, who's our research coordinator, and Megan Straley, another research coordinator who's been very instrumental in doing several of the things that I'm going to tell you about. And also our partners at Emory, Scott Myers, Steve Trinellis, and Hung Yu Wan. So our hypothesis is that a particular change in a GRIN gene is going to change the function of that protein coded by the GRIN gene, which is then going to have a specific phenotype, that is, what are the symptoms that you have, and potentially it will influence the particular treatment that's particular to your particular change in GRIN. And the things that we want to try to track are developmental milestones, regressions, changes with time, epilepsy, vision, movement disorders, growth, puberty, medications, therapies, sleep, behavior, GI issues like reflux and constipation, autonomic issues, which also includes things like cold hands and cold feet, but also unusual spells, and other illnesses that people might experience, as well as longevity. Now, we've been doing this for quite a while, where we've had a registry to collect information on patients with GRIN, GRIA, GRIC, and GRID, and other associated protein changes. And we were initially funded by Citizens United for Research in Epilepsy. And then more recently, we were funded by the GRIN2B Foundation through October. And then because of COVID, we had some leftover money. And so we've been in what we call a no-cost extension to spend out that money since then. And I think it was all spent out sometime around March or April. We're looking to continue this work due to funding from the Simons Foundation, and this is due to start any day now in 2021. And also, we've been supported by the Ponzio Family Chair in Neurology Research, and this is through the Children's Hospital Colorado Foundation. We also have partners and synergies with Dr. Lemke, who's at Leipzig, and Dr. Baines at Columbia and the Simons Foundation, and Dr. Dennis Lau, who's at the Broad Institute, as well as Cleveland Clinic. So what we'd initially developed, we called the GRIN questionnaire. And over the last year and a half, we've updated it to match data collection to look nearly exactly the same as what is collected by Dr. Lemke in Leipzig. And the reason for this is so that patients in one half of the world will register with Dr. Lemke, and the other half of the world, they'll register with us. And the reason for this is because there's certain genetic data protection rules that are unique to Europe and that don't necessarily apply, or they apply differently in the United States. And so basically, our registry is concerned with the Americas and with Australia, whereas Dr. Lemke is everywhere else. So this has always been a paper form that we've emailed to families. They fill it out, they scan it, and they send back. And so we have an online version that's going to match this, which should be easier for everybody involved, and this is coming soon. And this is how Dr. Lemke does things. But most recently, we've also updated the GRIN questionnaire to reflect parental concerns. And this was done through important feedback that we have obtained from folks at GRIN2B and GRIN. And we then also, based on a lot of that feedback, is we updated our consent form to allow de-identified sharing with our partners, such as with Johannes Lemke, so that we essentially, it's really it's one database. It's just coming from different parts of the world based on our data protection rules that exist in different places. The consent was also updated to allow recontact for future studies. So in other words, if a new study such as a clinical trial comes along, we can then recontact families to let them know about that. The consent was also updated to allow contact information sharing with the patient advisory groups, which is GRIN2B and GRIN. Consent was also updated to allow annual updates. We want families to update their information annually would be ideal if possible. So our investigational review board, or IRB, approved this, but one of their conditions was they said that we needed to reconsent all of the individuals and people that we'd seen in the past. So essentially, we had to redo all of our work from the get-go. And so that's what we've been busy doing over the last year. Nevertheless, we've made some progress in continuing to enroll new families, as well as reconsenting all of the old families. So what our plans are for all of this is that we hope to have, there's 2 review papers. They're in process. Hopefully these will be sent out very soon, hopefully by the end of the month, to the journals that have requested those review papers. There's also a review that Steve Trinellis has recently written in Pharmacological Reviews, which reviews a lot of the clinical information. Dr. Lemke, along with Dr. Trinellis and myself, also are working on 2 papers, kind of re-summarizing what the new information is on individuals with GRIN1 and GRIN2B changes. So a lot of stuff that's going on. So here's an update of the results. So through our registry here at the University of Colorado, we've had 163 contacts. We are awaiting return consents or a mixture of the consents or genetic results or completed questionnaires on some of these individuals. Our goals, we would like to have an analysis done on 50 or more with a completed GRIN questionnaire and functional analysis for individuals with GRIN1, GRIN2A, GRIN2B each. So I'd like to have 50 in each of these groups. And these will be combined with variants already collected by Dr. Lemke for further analysis. So basically with this combined analysis, we're hoping to have, hundreds sometimes in each group so that we can analyze them all. And certainly I want to say a huge thanks to GRIN2B for your efforts to stimulate enrollment have been hugely helpful. And you can see, look, we have now 50 individuals consented and with questionnaires completed with GRIN2B. So GRIN2B is leading the charge there. We continue to collect more with GRIN1 as well. They were also helpful in stimulating enrollment too. And this is where we are with the functional analysis. Essentially, doing a functional analysis on these takes time. Dr. Trinellis' lab is able to do about 35 different variants per year. And it's just a limitation on resources as to how he's able to do that. So basically, we're really happy with where our numbers are now. They're at 125. Again, the goal is I'd like some more to complete our goals. As I stated, for 50 each in GRIN1, GRIN2A, and GRIN2B as we continue to move forward. So I know that you have questions for me. I have some questions for you. Why haven't you enrolled? Why haven't you updated? This, of course, is the pathway to advanced functional analyses. So Dr. Trinellis has been doing the analyses, those functional analyses that I referred to. But in order to get that, you have to enroll with either myself or Dr. Lemke in order to proceed with that. And what's important about the future funding through Simon's Foundation is that we're going to pursue more advanced functional analyses. And this is an issue because a number of individuals might have alterations in parts of the protein that aren't really probed by the current analyses. And we want to address these in what we're going to do through the Simon's grant. So I want everybody to know about the new portal, and it's a one-stop shop for all. And so here's what the portal looks like. If you were to just Google GRIN portal, you will find, I think this is 3 down the list of things when you Google that. And when you go into the portal, here's what you'll initially see. And there are 5 tabs across here at the top: basic information, families, variant analysis, research, and the GRIN registry. It's all there for you. And some people have gone to find information in the CFIRV portal, but this will all, going forward, this is the place for everything. And I encourage everybody to take a look at this website and provide feedback as to how we can make it friendly. It's supposed to be friendly for a very diverse group, from families to clinicians to scientists and researchers. So it's trying to meet a lot of needs, which is could be a heavy lift, but we welcome your feedback. So if you go to click on the family portal and then click on family organizations, you'll see that GRIN2B Foundation is there along with Cure GRIN, and some of the other national foundations are going to pop up as well. And the important thing to note is that this is, yes, it's a working website, but in many ways it's still a beta version. So we welcome your input. And as you can see on the little link at below, it says, and many more. So please contact us if you want your particular foundation that's not listed there as this all moves forward. And the same goes for any other information that you think is missing or should be done differently. So one of the other buttons you can click is if you click the GRIN registry button, and it clearly here will direct you to either Dr. Lemke's registry if you are in the area outlined in yellow there, or it will direct you to our registry and our coordinator, Jennifer Sargent, if you're in the Americas or Australia. So we'll go back to the questions page, and I welcome any questions that you have for me now. Phil.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lemke. Really appreciate the presentation. Yes, there are just a few questions here that I want to follow up with that have been sent in. So first of all, the GRIN portal looks great. That's awesome that that's being created. So is it fair to assume that that portal, that website, will eventually house the online forms for the registry?
No, you still have to go to, so through the portal, you can click the links to get to the registry to us. So because you have to go through a consent process first before you can start filling things out, you have to go through us in order to get to those registry forms.
Thank you. And then you did mention in your presentation that you expect that online form to be ready soon. Can you be more specific about when that might be?
They tell me this week. So I'm hoping that Megan Straley, she's our programmer, and so I'm hoping to have the online form in my hands this week. Dr. Park and I need a week to beta test it to make sure it's not glitchy, but we're hopeful that we can then hand it off to families pretty soon after that. We have to get first our IRB to approve it. So taking that into account, I'm hoping that the online form will be available no later than 4 weeks from now.
So for those that are watching this webinar, the hope is that
mid-June
form may be
July,
ready.
sorry.
Yeah, maybe ready by the time you're viewing this or shortly after. This obviously was recorded a little bit earlier. So thank you very much for that. And then again, kind of continuing on with these form questions. So you mentioned that ideally you would like for families to update their information on an annual basis. So would that form so let's say I wanted to update my information and I've already got my information sent and it's a year later. Would that be the same form? Would that be a streamlined form for an update? How do you visualize that?
It'll be a streamlined form. So as you go through it online, or if you're still doing the paper form, you're going to mark on there that it's an update. And so, and either in the original case or in the updates, you just fill in the things that are new that you think are different from the last time that you did it. So ideally, I want you to fill in everything, because then it lets me know if this was what was going on last year, it's still the same things that are going on for you this year. So we're encouraging people to fill out as much of the form as they can.
So that's great, because that kind of leads me into this next question. Which I think is what you're trying to find out, but let me just ask the question. So someone wants to know, even though a GRIN2B variant or a GRIN variant is fixed genetically, is it possible to determine how that variant may affect people over time? So, for example, seizures don't occur until later on in life, or they start happening with the onset of puberty, or basically, is it possible to determine how phenotypes change as patients age?
Absolutely. And that is the question we want to try to answer by people filling out annual updates. Is we want to know more about the natural history. At the moment, we're getting snapshots of people, and things always change with time. And so that's why it's going to be really important for people to continue to fill out the updates. You might have epilepsy now. I need to know that you outgrew it. I need to know that it got worse. It got better. These are the medicines that worked. You were having troubles in school. You've made great strides. I need this. When you come to see me as a clinician, I rely on what's published in the literature to tell families this is our experience. I mean, your child is never a percentage or anything like that. But it's my job to tell you what we know is possible. It tells us that what we know is possible. There's always things that are outside that realm, but we need your data so that we can publish, and we can, all of us, all clinicians all over the world, can counsel families better.
Terrific. And then just thank you. And I think that really does clarify why these registries and the updated registries specifically are so important. Just one final question, and I don't know if you could answer this or not. You mentioned having some new information that you're hoping to have published in the papers regarding GRIN2B related neurodevelopmental disorder. Can you provide our viewers any general findings as to what those changes are? Are you not able to do that at this time? Anything you can tease us with?
Not yet. Dr. Lemke's paper is the resource that's out there so far, but we're basically hoping to more than double the number of individuals that were in that paper, because we want, the range of possibilities is so broad that we need to expand on that. So I'm not able to because we haven't. I want to put my data together with Dr. Lemke's data, and that's when it's going to be the most useful. So it's not ready for prime time yet. One of the things is that Dr. Lemke, I think, has seen more patients than we have with epilepsy for GRIN2B, and I think that when it comes together, we're gonna figure out where that shows up. But I know that it's going to be very dependent upon, we're putting everybody together in one GRIN2B bucket there, and I think that as we learn more, there's going to be the gain of functions and there's the loss of functions, but it's also going to matter, whether you gain a function in your ligand binding domain or a loss of function in your C-terminal domain. I think all of these things are going to parse out a bit more as we learn more. So again, so that we can counsel families better. about what to expect. I mean, I've personally seen a great variation in individuals with GRIN2B changes, and I think this is going to be a process that we're really counting on families to help us with as we go forward. And the other thing is that, I think in the portal now, and also in the CFIRV portal, there's going to be just one individual represented that has one particular change in GRIN2B. Our goal with Dr. Lemke is, I would like to see, what does it look like in the 20 individuals that have the same change in GRIN2B? Because we're going to see variation there as well. Not everybody's not going to be the same. We know this in other genetic causes of neurodevelopmental disorders, that everybody can have the same alteration, but there's still can be a spectrum. And we need to see if that's indeed the case with GRIN disorders. So I think that was a long answer to your question.
Thank you. You answered it. Dr. Benke, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you providing us with this presentation.
Well, I want to thank you guys very much for your ongoing support and funding. It's been great working with you. Look forward to continue to working with you guys. You've been very helpful to us, not just financially, but with all of the feedback that you've provided in support. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.